Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Brace for Impact. It's episode 49. We're going a little bit calmer, a little bit cooler on this episode. Not to get by the striking change of hair color from Affinity.
Why, thank you.
Yeah, no, we if we get to every episode, you're gonna have a different hair color. I think that might be a very funny running joke,
That'd be iconic.
as expensive as that might become for you to do. That'd be very interesting for sure. But no, I
I'd be
mean,
down.
huh?
I'd be down for that though.
Yeah. Judging by the amount of, well, you were telling me the red that's like semi-permanent, but it's still like stuck in your
Yeah.
hair. It's just one of those
The
things.
the issue is like dyeing over the top
Yeah,
because the colors don't come out that quickly. So it would just be like it would just end up brown again. It just all the colors would just
that'd be
I don't know
something.
how color theory works with hair
See,
dye, I'll be honest with you.
see, you say that like I'm just naturally like dark brown hair, so like I live that life already.
Oh, look at
Um,
them luscious locks flowing in
yeah,
the
yeah,
wind.
yeah.
Can you give us a little
I got a haircut already. It's like, oh,
can you give us a hair switch? Oh, majestic.
All right, let's get into the news here because there's a lot. We
Mm.
purposely left it for 3 weeks just because of where the qualifiers were at. We didn't want to do an episode after one of the qualifiers had ended, after the first qualifier had ended, and have to wait 2 weeks to reveal what happened on the second qualifier. So we just kind of did that. There's been other competitions in the meantime as well. IESF Europe finished off. IESF both the Americas have happened, which is really cool. And then there's also been a Cash Cup as well in the meantime. So there's plenty of actual results to get through. And I think if we want to start quick, we'll knock out the remainder of the European qualifier for IESF. I believe when we left it off, Spain and who was it qualified? It was like the top. It was the top teams. It was the upper was it was the upper bracket semis that happened. So it was like France, Spain,
Yeah.
Sweden, and Poland had qualified, and it was then the remaining two spots were left, and it was gonna be like Czechia and Denmark, Turkey and Romania, Portugal and Slovakia, and Serbia and Norway. I think that was where we were at. Was those matches? So lower bracket round two, upper bracket semifinals. There were two spots left at the time, and it ended up that the qualifying teams are France, Poland,
Makes
Spain,
sense, yep. Yep.
and then from the lower bracket, Portugal and Denmark have joined, and Team Sweden as well was in the mix. They lost their semifinal match, and then they lost to Portugal, so they dipped
So
down a bit in the round rankings.
my question with this is because I'll level with you, Parks. I'm on my laptop because I don't know if you could tell, different location.
Yes.
Um, that I am like properly lagging every time I try and open a tab. So you're going to be doing the research on this one.
Yep.
But um, Poland was playing with the Navi Javelins lineup, wasn't it?
Correct. It is a
But
full
as we'll talk
Navi
about
core.
later on,
Yeah.
they changed the roster. But I'm guessing they're playing with the old roster still.
So yes, so the way Team Poland works is it is the Navi Javelin squad as the full five Polish players.
Mm,
They have made a more of an international change, and we'll get to that later in the general news section with the rosters. But yes, that was something I made sure to. I think I tweeted about that and just kind of saying here there's a little wrinkle here is like you're not going to be practicing with your former players for some time, and I don't think they mind at
yeah.
all. I think it was Honka actually like tweeted back at me and just said, yeah, we knew that going into this, and the roster move that we're going to discuss had already been in motion. I think Kaya Newt mentioned as well, like because he scrapes demos for his big
Yeah.
power buy thing. He'd known for over a week that this change had happened because they were practicing already as the new five before the roster announcement had happened. So yeah, Team Poland is definitely an interesting one to look out for. Team Spain as well. If you didn't know already, it's a team as well. It's Yumi actually. It's a full five.
Ooh.
It's a full Spanish team, and interestingly enough, Shimmer Standen Heidi is in that team as well. So uh, she was in there for Valencia for Shimmer as a stand-in because of Abby fracturing. I think she got a hairline fracture on her wrist or something like that.
Abby
She was
losing a fight, lost the 1v1 to a fence.
yes, 100%. The other interesting thing I want to say, I guess, is Team Portugal. I mean, Team Denmark, we kind of saw coming through. The majority of the roster is on Astralis, so they've had time to work together. And then Ramsden on her own is a great player. There's a reason why she's been bouncing between teams because so many people want her. Basically, is kind of where that goes. Um,
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, Team Portugal is a very interesting one. We've seen how SAW have been doing in Cologne. I believe they're into the playoffs now, if I'm so correct. They beat the Mongols, maybe not, but they're in the upper bracket still, as far as I'm aware. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong on
Um,
all this. Hold on, let me check. I will
no,
check.
I'll be honest with you, Parks. Um, I came home for the first time in 8 months,
Yeah.
so I've been really out of the loop for like the past week, and so I'll occasionally load up HLTV and I'll check like the IAM Cologne results, and I'll be like, holy crap, Donk dropped his first negative rating since joining Tier 1.
Yes.
What is going on?
Yeah. No, it
And
is.
and
The
they're
world
like,
has
but
flipped.
it's fine because they can redeem this. And then I look again a day later and I'm like, oh, they're eliminated.
Yep.
Oh, fun.
Yep.
So I'm really out of the loop. So maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I-
So
I'll
I
be honest
can.
with you, I'm here to just add quick quips today, I think.
That's fine. That's usually Benny and I share the responsibilities of the quick quip sometimes, but no, we're good. I just checked. Yeah, saw are into the upper finals, so
That's huge.
They play against Navi, but they I think have booked themselves a spot. Yeah,
Yeah.
they booked themselves a spot. So tomorrow, the matches there tomorrow are going to be the upper final, the lower final, and of course that lower final is going to define if G2 or Pain get into the playoffs. And then
Mm.
on the other side of the bracket, it's Mao's going Vitality to see who it wins on that one, and then FaZe, Falcons, Complexity, Liquid to determine between those four teams which one will make it. Is a very big thing, but that's Cologne. That's something that we're
Me when NACS isn't dead?
they're facing
Question
each
mark?
other. They're facing each other. It's a little bit over. Um, yeah,
It's Jova. I'm sorry.
it's a little Jover.
Sorry for your loss.
Yeah. Anyways, going back to the actual results that we want to talk about. So, congratulations to Team France, Team Poland, Team Spain, Team Portugal, Team Sweden, and Team Denmark. They're going to be the six representing their nations at the World Esports Championship in November.
Yep, they
And
are
then
indeed.
on the North America side, I'm gonna mostly push over this one because I don't have any score lines for the teams that participate in the North American version. In the South American qualifier, it was the Argentinian selected team going up against the Brazilian team that won through the qualifiers. And I will be honest with you, I don't know what the selection process is for Brazil, but it ain't it. That's for sure.
Mm.
Because this roster looks okay on paper. It's Smoke Gaming FE. So you, your Arkinia, who's played for a few different teams,
Yeah.
Coldzenia and Luflix. So they're a team together all outside of this qualifier. They went up against Team Argentina, consisting of Kazina, China, Lulitans, Bunny Azul, Armchem, and Locomotion as their coach, and that you've got two players playing for Insanity FE. You've got a player from Furia, you've got a player from LIBR, and then you have Bunny, who's just a free agent. And it was okay. It was a pretty close first map on Anubis. You have to remember. Sorry, backing up a second here. Brazil and Argentina were playing each other in one best of three to determine who went to this to Riyadh for the LAN. And the reason for that was because originally the whole qualifier was supposed to be held in Rio de Janeiro, with the North American teams and everybody coming down, and um, it would have been seven teams participating for three spots, and so you would have had
Yeah.
Brazil, Argentina, USA, Canada. Um, I said them earlier. Hold on, I have the other teams up. Colombia, Guatemala, Honduras. Those, so that would have been the seven playing for some spots. It's not how it ended up working though, because the LAN got canceled. So they, due to ping restrictions, had to separate the qualifiers. So they had the South American teams in Argentina and Brazil face off against each other, and then everybody else's ping was good enough to play a Miami server. So that's what they did. They forced Miami, and they had the other five play there. So they had USA, Colombia, Canada, Guatemala, and Honduras all play in the Miami server. So the North American bracket got two qualifier spots, and as a result, South American only got one, but there was two teams, so it didn't really matter. They went up against each other. Team Argentina won 13-11, 13-8. They got the 2-0, and the runners-up from last year will be back to face off against Team Netherlands, who, because they won last year, are automatically qualified this year to join those other six European teams. So it's all starting to kind of form together here on that format.
Yeah, it's I remember watching the qualifiers because you were streaming some of them,
Yeah,
and then of course they were also being officially streamed as well. So up on one screen I'd have you casting, and the other it'd be Lucy and B Dog.
yeah,
And I remember watching both of the games, and nigh on exactly the same time was 13-0, 13-0, and then the next game started, and then 13-0 and 13-0 again on both of them.
yeah.
Almost to the minute did those games finish within each other,
They were fast.
both 26-0, and I can imagine it was a difficult cast because I know that Lucy and Brandon, I think, had moments that they struggled to try and find because Brandon was trying to be like, I think I see what they're doing here, and Lucy was like, but do we? And it was a difficult one because I've casted some of the IESF African qualifiers, both North and South Africa last year,
Yeah,
and there were teams with players that just didn't have they had sub 50 hours, some of those players on the game, and it's really difficult to cast. It's one of those things that people are like, oh, I bet you love 13 O's, and I'm like, not
they're
really.
boring.
They're stomps, they're boring, and then you try and find stuff to pick up on, but the fact that they haven't even got a single round, there might be stuff that they're doing okay, and you could be like, "Oh, we'd like to see more of that," but you feel like a broken record by the
Yeah,
end of it.
yeah.
And so I think it was a difficult day all round on that one, but I have a photo of both games going 13-0 on each screen, and
There's
I
a
mean, quick night.
yeah, there's a few funny stories actually. So, um I was actually messaging Brandon pretty much throughout any of the Canada matches because I
Okay.
know the team and everything. And he's like, at one point he messages me back, and he's like, after like it generally takes like five or so minutes for like him to kind of incorporate what I've been messaging him.
Mm.
Um, so they were talking up Miss Harvey being in the matches and everything. Miss Harvey was very sick that week, so she was not playing any of them, but she kept coming up on the graphics and everything. And he's like, okay, one step showing up, and I was like, she's not playing. I'm so sorry. And so he had to break the news, like, yeah, this is actually the official lineup. This is how this all is working and everything like that. But no, at one point he messaged me and he's like, "Is there any like fun facts you can tell us about these teams?" And I was like, "I mean, I know some things, but I can't tell them." Like, so I let me see if I can find something that I sent to him because I sent him
Because
a
of
few
course,
things.
some of the TSM Shimmer players that you're quite familiar with were on the lineup. And so you could be like, well, I've got stories, but I think for their sakes I shouldn't share them.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Hold on, let me see. I mentioned to him how Bouchard had to rush home to make the first day because her boss wouldn't let her off like the half an hour early to get home in time. So that was fun. Um, Let me see. I'm just looking through. I don't think I gave him anything. Yeah, I told him basically, hey, Jazzykins is our main op. Miss Harvey is actually a sub. Blah 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 blah. Kind of went down the list. We talked a little bit after about some other stuff, but no, I really wasn't able to give him anything because I'm sitting there, I'm like, there's nothing I can give you that's like
Yeah.
funny. I'm sorry, I'm not in on that kind of stuff. But no, I mean, of the five teams, so the five teams left: so Canada, U.S., Colombia, Honduras, Guatemala. Um, Honduras looked good. Interestingly enough, like not they were not gonna preface they were not gonna beat United States and Canada. They like the players that Canada and the United States have are just miles ahead of anybody else in the region, especially in the women's scene. But I could have sworn I think it was Honduras who took a round off of Team Canada. Just one. It was just one. But they looked good throughout the series as well. Like that was just something that like they
Yeah.
looked good. So Team Canada and Team USA are the two that are going forward. Team USA 4-0'd in the group, so they went through easy enough. They beat Canada in the last match of the night. Of the second night, there was a third night, so they had to play again. But at that point it was already sealed that they were pretty much through.
Yeah,
Uh,
confirmed. Yeah.
and Team Canada went 3-1. Had a lot of fun. The team we're unsure of what the full team is going to look like at this point because of course you bring the five players. I'm going to be in Riyadh as well because I'm going with the team as the team manager. Um, but yeah, it's a very interesting time. So North America and Europe are set. That leaves six spots. So four from the Asian and two from the African, and then that is
The
it.
real question is Mads's family gonna fly all the way out to Riyadh to cheer?
So here's the little wrinkle with IESF
Okay.
is the event happens between let me pull up my calendar here because I know the dates in my head. Um I would be flying out on like the 9th, the 10th kind of days. Like that's
Okay.
around or the 8th. Kind of that those few days of November. That's the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Um and then the event happens for 10 days. So it goes from I believe it
Okay.
starts on the 11th and it goes until like the 19th or the 20th, somewhere about there.
Yeah.
And at that point, anybody who's going to ESL Impact Season 6 in Stockholm is probably going to have to take a flight from Saudi Arabia to
To
Sweden.
Stockholm. I remember you
Yeah.
saying, yeah,
So
that's
there's a few of the players that are in both North America and both in Team USA and Team Canada. You've got the most of Team Poland, Team France, um, like you've got Team Portugal as well. Team Sweden will have a few players. Team Denmark could potentially as well. Like all these teams, Team Argentina will probably have a few as well. Like there's going to be a good group of players that are going to be going basically directly from Saudi Arabia to Stockholm to spend
to
time there
Stockholm. Yeah.
to join their teams to go to this land that's going to happen the next weekend, basically. So right now I'm just trying to bank on. I gotta put it through probably tonight. The time off I need to fly out of country to then also fly back into country and spend time in Sweden and spend time in Saudi Arabia. So that's definitely a concern point for a few players. Um,
Mm.
I know uh, a few players in North America are very concerned, like because we only have one spot. It's very dependent on that, but um, there are Flyquest Red players on both Team USA and Team Canada because
Yeah.
Gooseberry's on Team Canada, and then you have Emmy on Team USA. And I'm just trying to think. I don't think anybody else is. I know Mads and Yuli for TSM are on Team USA as well. And then Emily and Olia for Team Karma are on Team USA. So there's a good amount of players that kind of have always been in the upper echelon that are all going to be going to Saudi Arabia together. They're all going to spend time, and then some of them have to turn around and fly north,
Immediately. Yeah.
and
That's
then after
crazy.
that weekend probably fly home. But I don't know. I mean, I'm taking it. It's partially like the second half is a vacation for me. If I go to Sweden, it'll be a vacation. The first half is me going to participate and actually be a part of this big thing, which is it's so much fun. So
I'd love to be in Sweden for this one. I feel like people that know me or have watched previous episodes of the podcast know what my goal for this season of ESL Impact is.
yes,
If I get booked for it as well, because I've not heard anything through yet.
yeah,
And I don't know whether I'm allowed to say that or not, but I'll say it. Is I haven't heard anything through as to whether I'm going to be casting this season again. I'd
yeah.
hope so. I I'd like
We'll
to.
see. We'll see.
Um, we'll see. But like ultimately my goal is I'm trying to push to be working the finals. But if I'm not, Sweden's fairly close by. Geographic, it's closer to me than Dallas was, I'll tell you that. Um, so maybe I go, like I might try seeing it. Like I'm quite busy, but I want to go.
yeah.
But you won't catch
Well,
me in Riyadh.
no. Sorry. It's a long flight, and it's gonna be
It's
a
a long,
long.
long flight.
Yeah, I'm basically flying halfway around the world for this. So what's gonna happen,
True.
right? Who knows?
Get
Um,
those miles in. You
get
get
those
those air
miles in.
miles
Yeah,
in.
I don't. They're not gonna be. I'm not paying for the tickets, so that's the good part.
Exactly. That's even better.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we're gonna quickly go through the cash cups that happened. There was one cash cup that happened in between the last time we talked about them because it was July 22nd was the last time we talked, and there was one cash cup in between. So they only had one in July that I can find record of at least. I feel like that's true, but I don't know. Not fully 100% on that.
I'll look later, but
Yeah.
I think I'm with you on that one. Yeah.
Um, so coming up first was Asia. They actually had one this time, and very interestingly, there was Invincible team was back, of course, to play, but there was
Hmm.
another team that popped up, and it's five Warriors. I'm guessing it's five Ariers, so I'm guessing it's Warriors or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Farviers. I don't know how to say it. And it's a mix. It is three Mongolian players with two Malaysian players, and Argent, formerly of HSG Gaming, is on five Ariers. So They won 2-1 as well. And this is
Okay.
something that I heard talk of during when I was talking with Brandon about something that we'll talk about a little bit later. Is he mentioned that basically in Asian CS they have basically a pool of like 200 people that like play together, and they, various teams and stuff. Most of it happens on Perfect World, so we don't see it on the outside.
Yeah.
But how they get their scrims and their practice, everything is from this pool of players. And so maybe what we're starting to see, I mean, Invincible team's been around; they keep coming back to play these games. But maybe something like Five Warriors coming in, like, hey, let's play, let's see what we can do, and winning $350 when a lot of times this event gets canceled. That's pretty good. That's pretty cool. So
It's just sad, of course, that we don't have the Asia wildcard slot for
yeah,
season 6. So, unfortunately, we will be seeing an Asian team competing, but
you're
unfortunately, the
spoiling.
Asian region isn't. Well, I mean,
I'm
if you
kidding.
on Twitter in the past, in fact,
Yeah,
actually, it's been quite quiet. Like, unless you follow the ESL Impact account, like the actual account,
yeah.
it's been very quiet. Like, I don't think HSG has put anything out about it. And like
So
last I checked, GFI hadn't even tweeted about
yeah,
it.
generally speaking, the HSG players I find are pretty quiet up until like leading
Yeah,
up to a LAN or anything. Like when they went to Dallas, there was a
yeah,
lot of stuff from Olga. There was a lot of stuff from GFI. But right now, generally, they just kind of don't say anything at all. Um, but no, I mean, moving on to the next Couch Cup, the Oceanic one. Newton Yarp back at it again, of course. Artemis Chicken Loaf Noogs, Mimasu Camille going up against Arya, Maddie, Amelie, Morgan, and Barf. That's a great name. I love the
that
name
is not
Barbarite.
great.
No, that's they're my favorite player. Declared.
Whoa, I'm hurt.
You don't play. You're my favorite host.
Oh, sweetheart.
It was a 2-0 for Newt. So Artemis, Chicken Loaf, Noogs, Mimasu, and Camille taking the $350. Thank you very much. And again, it's just them having fun. Like
Mm,
this is all this is for them, right? Is like they come into this and they go, yeah, you know, take a few
have
hours out of
fun,
my
yeah.
day and have a bit of fun with some friends and kind of keep up the good work. Oh my gosh,
Exactly.
South Africa, what had happened? Two teams signed up. White Rabbit Amorales and ATK are back. Interestingly to note, Amirs is coaching ATK FE.
Ooh.
Notable British coach, I think, coach. We had him on for an episode of Brace for Mech. I think he was the first interview we ever had. So that's pretty cool to see. We had
Ooh.
Megs on as well for the second episode ever. That's there's some funny stuff in there.
Pick
Um,
up the UK scene.
yeah. First map 13-8 for ATK. Second map
Mm.
13-11 for WRA. Third map 25-23 on
Oh,
Vertigo
that's a bit well known.
for ATK.
On Vertigo. All right, okay, hear me out. If you're gonna go to that many overtimes, don't do it on Vertigo.
Yeah.
Why Vertigo? No one wants more Vertigo. The standard 24 rounds of regulation is 24 rounds more than anyone wants on Vertigo anyway. Why would you take it? What did you say it was 20, 21,
25-23.
25, 23?
That is
Nobody
48
wants
rounds of Counter
almost
Strike.
50 rounds of Vertigo. I don't even think I can count that many overtimes. I'm bad at maths, albeit, but
Yeah.
like that's at least two.
That's at least nice. I'm glad you count.
Am I wrong?
I can't tell you otherwise. Yes or no. I don't
Is
have
it at
fingers to
least
count. Um.
you don't have fingers count right? Pucks, hold up your hands.
Yeah.
Do this. Those are your fingers.
Yeah,
You
but they're
have
not for counting.
fingers.
They're for holding things.
Oh, are they?
Yeah. Like they hold my phone like this.
And how well do they do that? How
Or
many cracks are on your phone screen?
0 actually.
Oh,
My phone is very fine, unlike my car.
I wasn't gonna mention it.
No, I
I
know.
wasn't
I
gonna
had to I
mention
had
it.
to go there eventually. Yeah, I miss
I,
my
I was
I
trying to
miss my car
avoid
so much.
describing like the America IESF matches as a car crash because I didn't want to set you off. Um, but since you've
I
opened the
miss my
floodgates,
car. I miss my car a lot.
a
Um,
moment of silence
yeah, I've got it
for
basically.
it's with Benakage in a better place.
Wow. Uh, this house got hit by lightning, by the way. Yeah. Okay.
Rock that.
Yeah. Um, Okay, going over to South America now. There were 6 teams that participated. We got the top 4: MIBR FE, Akatsuki, Insanity Female, who we talked about earlier, with a few of their players participating for Team Argentina, and Penalinia Season 2, which of course is a group of friends playing together. It's Ellie, Josie, Anna X, Goddess, and Junger. So that's
Love Man X.
three of Fluxo demons. There's Shrika's Oz, and then a W7M player in Lee
Mm.
on that team as well, which is pretty fun to have a kind of grouping like that. And
Impact called Anna.
yeah, um, but yeah, it was MIBR going up against Akutski. They took the 2-0. It was a pretty quick one. And then on the other side, same kind of story for Penalina versus Insanity Female, although it went to overtime on map number 2. Both were 2-0s. That left it to the grand final, MIBR versus Penalina, and it was a 13-10 for Penalina to start off with, and then it was a 19-17 on Mirage for MIBR. Third map went MIBR's way as well on Anubis, 13-11. So MIBR are the victors. Penalina still get a nice crisp $250. Overall, just good time for all that he had, and I like that there were 6 teams signing up this time. That was good to see.
Mm. Don't think there's much I could add
No.
to that one. You sort of nailed that one.
Yeah,
Hit the nail on the head.
hit the nail on the head. Got that all taken care of. All right, and then into the next one was, of course, North America. 10 teams signed up. I've got the most notable 4 at the top. It was TSM Shimmer going up against Doves, which is an interesting one because it wasn't really the Doves. It was kind of Doves adjacent. Tatiana, Kianetta, Rook Climbing, who I don't know, Rain, and Tippy. So a bit of a mixed bag there because Tippy of course is on Gnomes. Kianetta was playing for
Yeah.
Chimkins last. I don't know who Rook Climbing and Rainy are, but I mean Tat carried the name over. Lotus were in there as well, sporting a different roster. It was Fox Successor, Toasty, Arianarchist, Thorn, and their coach Chance. Which 3 of those 5 players, we'll get to that in a second. 3 of those 5 players were on the final team. And then Nouns, of course, are playing as well. And it went to a grand final of TSM Shimmer going up against Nouns. So Lotus lost in the semifinals, Dove lost in the semifinals. And Nouns took a map off of TSM Shimmer. It was 13-9, 13-10 for Nouns, and 13-10 on Anubis for TSM Shimmer. So 2-1. Nouns have been kind of knocking on the door a little bit more and more as time has progressed here. And it's nice to see that they got the funding, a few months back, and that's nice to see that's kind of progressed to this point where they're still kind of moving forward with it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I love the girls over at TSM Shimmer. They do have to be really careful because they had a lot of confidence that this was going to be the season that they beat Flyquest, of course, with only one NA spot.
Yeah.
But the fact that Nouns, in the cash cups, which notoriously Shimmer hasn't had too much issue just stomping when Flyquest isn't here. The
Mm-hmm.
fact that not only did it go 3 maps, but that final map being 13-10, way closer than I expected it to be. It's really cool to see Nouns so hot on their heels and that they have this competition. Hopefully they use it as firepower, but it's definitely got to be slightly concerning for them because for the longest time now, I say the longest time, at least the past 2 seasons, it feels like it's been Flyquest, Shimmer, and then quite a big disconnect between the next team.
Yeah.
But Nouns has already sort of bridged that gap, and we're only just about to start the ESL Impact season.
Yeah,
So I'm super excited for
this
this.
is the crazy bit, right? This is where everything kind of potentially turns on its head, and especially because we lost the majority of the Limitless side to
Yeah.
them either moving on or just not playing anymore. So there needed to be a gap filled, and I mean, we've seen Team Karma do okay against everybody else, but in terms of their competition against TSM Shimmer and against Flyquest Red, it doesn't seem like they hit that extra gear to really make a push. So
Mm.
it sucks to say, but it feels like Karma are always playing for third. They're not playing for first, second, they're
Yeah.
playing for third. So it's interesting to see how Nouns is now trying to push. Right, they're making their way up. Aside from that, then we leave ourselves last with a team with the European one, and it feels like this is the smallest one in a very long time. 14 teams signed up. Notable teams that came through: Dreamcatchers, K10 Ashes, Waves, One Day, Crescent, Yayo, Spirit, and 5 Bytes. So majority of these teams are Russian players. So they're the ones who are continuing on the grind here as well to kind of get get ready for the qualifiers, because this was the last Cash Cup before the qualifiers happened.
Yeah, a lot
Um,
of those teams we saw in the qualifiers and making deep runs as well for a lot of them.
yeah.
But yeah, there was a lot of overlap between that last, as you said, the last cash cup before the qualifiers and then the qualifiers.
So that left us then. I'm just going to skip most of these results. It left us to a grand finals of K10 Ashes going up against Spirit. Most of the teams that we'll talk about in the next little bit here, they bowed out actually in the quarterfinals. They bowed out quite early. So Spirit going up against K10 Ashes, and it was Spirit 2-0, 13-8, 13-11. They took the win on that one. So Spirit did get the W there, and I mean, good on them. Like I said, there's a lot of good teams coming through, especially your Russian mixes, or majority Russian players kind of coming into the women's scene as well. They're really starting to pick it up. But we only saw them kind of at first in kind of the side tournaments that were played, like what were they, the 5v5s that were run by oh, I forget the name, but we've talked about them before. Ooh, give me a second. I'm gonna find it. Like Femme Fury and those kinds
Oh,
of
thank you.
tournaments.
Yeah.
Yeah, those ones. We see a lot of Russian teams go through those, but now that they're kind of starting to go into the Cash Cups as well, we're seeing them more prevalently, and they're doing a good job.
Yeah, I said, I think it was last episode, and I've off the record said a lot as well, is this feels like the the season of the Russians for ESL Impact. It feels like all of the new teams that we're seeing take the victories in basically all of the tournaments we've seen recently have been these Russian, I don't know if they're necessarily mixes, but these new players that are unorged coming up and just stomping. And I'm not 100% sure how I feel about this narratively, because I do quite like when we see the orgs coming up, or the teams that were org, like Let Her Cook having these cool runs. I am a little bit worried that they are just going to stomp
Yeah,
everyone at a higher level, because you're already seeing them beating loads of the top ESL Impact players. The groups of three or four of them are playing, like Team France, for instance. They've been beaten not once, twice. I think it might be getting three times now in a row. They've beaten Team France, and it feels very much like this is going to be their season, and that these are I don't even want to say underdog teams. These are going to be the teams that step up and push those top teams to have to put their best foot forward.
yeah, 100%. And speaking of those teams that they're going to have to be pushing forward here, we do have the open qualifiers. All of them have been decided to fully list out all the teams that will be participating in ESL Impact Season 6. You have to remember there's no wild card or anything like that happening, so the teams that make these three leagues are the teams. That's it. They're the ones, and that's where it sits. So to start off with, we're going to start off in South America, just because I didn't really see I didn't see anything from this. 7 teams signed up for the first qualifier, and Insanity Female, who we talked about earlier, they played in the Cash Cup. Brandina, Juliana, Arkham, China Q4, Cami, and their coach Slip, they've qualified. They faced off against a team called Illusion, and they beat them. And then on the other side was the Killers going up against Tropa de Pataco, and some interesting names on the Tropa de Pataco, but the Killers ended up taking it, and so that's Hera, Shoalina, Fly, Salax, and Razini, with Rock as their coach. So those are the first 2 teams to qualify in the Brazilian side. The next qualifier was, again, it's just 2 spots. They had 4 teams sign up. Peak Academy Female, who I believe played in that first qualifier under a different name, they've made it through, and that's Cara di Banana, Tamazinia, 11, Dynasty, and Valulu with their coach Cyber. They beat out Cafina, which is a Uruguayan Argentinian mix, and then Sundogs as well were beat out. That's a full Brazilian side. They were beat out by Guys for You. It's a 4, so I don't know how to G4Y for you. I think it's
Yeah.
Guys for You, but it's that's you, Arkinia, Luflix, Chroma, Ellen, and their coach Zen1. So that's the quick and dirty South American answers to who qualified from there. So just a quick overview of that. It's Fluxo, Furia, MIBR, Atrix, Insanity, The Killas, Peak Academy FE, and Gates and You. So a very interesting grouping. I definitely think the top 4 teams are probably going to stay the top 4 teams, but we might see something interesting out of like Insanity FE, because they showed some spark in the Cash Cup leading up to this.
Yep. It's nice to see some of those teams returning. It's a region that I've worked a lot with, and there are some incredible players. Unfortunately, of course, a lot of them aren't necessarily fluent in English, so I haven't had the chance to like properly talk with a lot of them. But it's a region that's got a lot of firepower, and of course, it's their turn with the two slots. Of course, North America had the two slots last time. South America gets their two slots this time. Um, and it's whether anyone can take those two slots because of course at the top it's been Furia, MIBR, and then Atrix were doing quite well and pushing it a little bit. Like they got their foot in the door. It's whether any of these new teams can step up because as you said, there were four teams but then two slots available, and so it wasn't necessarily the highest gateway to entry for them. So the real competition starts now for them. They've not really had necessarily that full proper test yet.
Yeah,
Um, but they have two slots available. It's not going to be easy for them. I'm excited to see what they bring.
for sure. So moving up into North America, then I think Europe will leave last because it's more than likely the most exciting one. There was a total of 11 teams that signed up for the first
It was a
qualifier, so
lot more than I
there's it
expected.
was
Yeah.
a lot of teams popping up. Top four to come through were Old Stars, Aware Impact, Nouns, FE, and Gnomes. And of course, Gnomes is X1 and Goons. They participated in the last season. They've been on that kind of cusp for a while. To come through, it was Old Stars versus Aware, and of course, this one had only two spots. The next qualifier had the three. So Old Stars consists of Daria, Scraft, Piggy Kiki, Love of My Life, and Sakura, and that's a majority. I mean, it's Daria and Love of My Life who are Ukrainian, Scraft who is Russian, Piggy Kiki of course is Chinese, and then Sakura is Belarusian by her nationality. So it's an expat kind of group who's making their way through. And of course Daria and Piggy Kiki played for Limitless last season together,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there's that link up there as well. They won over Aware Impact. And on the other side, Nouns, it was a 2-1 against Gnomes. So this is the interesting thing about Nouns, right? Is they win a map off of TSM Shimmer, and then they go and they lose a map against a team like Gnomes, who is good, but as we'll see, their level of competition is definitely kind of the lower half of NA Impact when it comes to, you think of the top 8. They're in that kind of lower section of teams, and it
In the
was.
words,
Oh,
I was gonna
sorry.
say, in the words of the almighty Abby Lee Miller, "You're good. We're waiting for you to be great."
Yeah, there you go. That's perfect. And so Nouns, Ash, Lunari, Catalyst, Jesscast, and Rainy with Hunters as a coach takes it over the Gnomes 2-1. So they are the first two teams to qualify. And then in qualifier number 2, we had again 10 teams sign up. It was a 3-day affair. It came down to the final four teams of Lotus, Doves, Impact, and Aware Impact.
I'm
And
so here for it.
yeah, I know you're here for it. I'm gonna suffer a lot. I'm gonna be glad to be producing instead of casting because then I don't have to deal with it.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! But if you're not casting, then can you really be called Parks Casts?
Yes.
Are you going to be Parks Producers
I don't
instead?
know. Are you Affinity hosts or are you just Affinity underscore PNG?
I don't get to host anything, Parks. They don't let me host stuff. I want them to.
I
They
know.
don't. They keep crediting me in like lower thirds as Affinity PNG because that's what my Twitter handle is. And I'm like, the PNG is silent. It's a file extension. I'm not
uh,
called Affinity. Please,
I
if
think it's
you're
funny.
ever crediting me, please don't put the PNG in. I'm just Affinity.
Affinity underscore
Please.
PNG. I'm gonna make sure the underscore
There's
that
no
gets joined in
underscore.
there.
There's no underscore either. But the underscore. I don't know where you got the underscore from, man.
It's on X. It's on Twitter.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. I'll show you
No, it
later.
isn't. It's
I
at
swear.
Affinity PNG. There's no underscore. Watch this, guys. Parks Cast is about to prove himself wrong in the space of 5, 4, 3, 2,
Yeah.
1. Someone tried to tell me what my own Twitter handle was.
It's because I struggle to find it a lot of times because I type affinity and it's like a bunch of, okay, whatever. At least I'm like trying, okay? Um
I know. I appreciate it.
Lotus
Would
go
you like a participation award?
Yes, I very much
Yes, there's a medal.
would. uh okay.
There was an attempt.
There was an attempt. All right. Speaking of attempts, second qualifier for North America had 3 spots
Exactly.
available. There were 10 teams that went in. 4 made it to day 3 to qualify. It's Lotus, the new look Lotus, which is Fox, Accessor, Arianarchist, Zazu, and Grimoire. Doves, which is Tatiana, Bunny Hops, Coffee, Robin, and Rice, with Yuz as their coach. Impact, which is Gadfly, Gone, Raven, Serendipity, and Styx. And Aware Impact, which is Cloudy, Lexa, EP Rain, The Cat, and Tokis. So a few noble names that kind of are in those groups. Doves going up against Lotus. Lotus took that 2-0. It was a very close map number 2. It was 13-10. So for a while there, it seemed like Doves might have a chance of making a map 3, but no, Lotus took that one and qualified. Impact went up against Aware. That was a 2-0 affair. It went to overtime on map number 1 on Anubis, 16-14, 13-3 for Impact. They qualify. That leaves the lower bracket round match of Doves versus Aware. Aware went up 13-11, map 1. Doves came back, won 13-8 on Ancient. They rocked their Ancient. I ended up watching that because I was done all my other stuff and I had just finished casting Nouns. And then it turned into a dud. It was 13-2 on map number 3. They went 12-0 on their first half and won the pistol round and won the round afterwards, and that was all she wrote, 13-2. So Aware, Impact, and Lotus join the first 2 teams to qualify, giving us the 8 teams of Flyquest Red, TSM Shimmer, Team Karma, Nouns FE, Old Stars, Lotus, Impact, and Aware. So that's the 8, and of course we'll get to see who of those makes it to Sweden. There's 1 spot this time, not 2. There is 1. So there's a lot higher stakes for your Flyquest Red, for your TSM Shimmer in this face-off.
Exactly. It's unfortunately, I feel like for a lot of these teams, it's going to be a matter of trying to just secure themselves a spot next season
Yeah.
and just keep themselves. Because sorry if I'm being stupid. I don't know if we know what's happening for season 7 with that spot.
We don't know yet.
Is because who knows, maybe Asia gets it back, maybe they keep alternating between North America and South America. Nobody really knows.
And
So
the other spanner in the works here
mm,
as well is that there's a major happening in Austin, Texas next year, around the same time that usually
yeah,
ESL Impact and IM Dallas happen. So it's gonna be an interesting time because the major happens before when Dallas would happen, I believe, and that changes how the scheduling works for that timing because of course after the major is a player's break. So that's the interesting thing there.
yeah,
So
who
yeah, it's just
knows?
something to be aware of. We'll have to wait and see what ESL Impact say. Generally, I think they put something out in October for what next year brings. We'll have to keep an eye out at that point. Moving on then, because we are getting closer to time here than I'd like, but we're moseying. We're doing well. ESL, or sorry, European qualifier number 1. They had a total of 34 teams sign up. That's a really nice amount. Notable teams, Dreamcatchers, who we talked about, Permita, HSG are here, and we'll talk a little bit more about them very soon. HSG, Blue Jays, which is a full Polish lineup, Elite Clan Violet were there, Crescent, One Day, K10 Ashes, Ensathina were trying to qualify again, AABFE were in there, and a funny team named Trauma Dump, featuring my goat, Miley, from Czechia. I love Czechian players. Czechia is awesome as a nation. I think I would live in Czechia if I went to Europe. So, yeah,
That's the odd choice, but fair. Respect it.
it's a hockey thing. Don't worry about
It's fucking
it.
Canadians. It's a hockey thing. Everything's a hockey thing.
It's because it's good. Um, to basically we're gonna push this forward pretty quickly. It went from 34 to 16 to 8 to 4. 2 teams were qualifying from this one. It ended up going down to HSG versus Dreamcatchers in 1, and Crescent versus Ensathina in the other one. And Dreamcatchers ended up coming out on top of HSG. It was 13-10 for HSG in the first map,
Mm.
and then 13-9, 13-3 for Dreamcatchers, so they qualify. Notable on that team, Elizabeth, Fatal, 2 former 9 Panda Fearless players. That's pretty cool to see. That's something to be aware of. Is like, and
Stand back.
with the dissolution of Fearless Cheetahs and with the dissolution of Nine Pandas Fearless, is they've kind of wormed their way around. Fatal, of course, was on was it One Win Gang last season? Yeah, she was on One Win Gang last season. That didn't work out, so we'll see what happens with Dreamcatchers. Yeah, HSG failed to qualify in the first one, and then on the other side of the bracket, Crescent going up against Ensathina. Crescent 2-0'd. It was a 16-12 on map number 1,
Yeah.
13-3 on map number 2. Crescent came to play, and so Mio, Ayaka, Margot, Amor, and Akia Nora were the 5. A full Russian team again, and you mentioned the Russians are coming. They're here. They're playing, and so they beat out Ensathina, which yeah, a little unfortunate to look at and see. So yeah, the 2 Russian teams make it through qualifying number 1.
And with that is, we talked about it, and I'd heard rumors, but again, we could only speculate last episode that HSG were going to be playing in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a pretty good idea because I'd heard, because I was speaking to people at Dallas, and someone had heard from somebody else who had heard from one of the HSG players
Yeah,
that, and it was the rumor mill, and I was like, I don't want to put too much stock in it, but I trust the people I'm speaking to. It would make sense for them because they're contenders. They make these deep runs every time. They're pushing for the finals and stuff. It
yeah,
would only make sense for them to go for it. And I think I remember seeing on Ramona GFI's story that they'd flown into Europe for the qualifiers. So I'm not sure how it's going to work for the rest of the season. Um, I fired her a message to ask if she'd be willing to like sit down and do an interview with me, because I'd really love to pick her brain about like what the plan for
of
the season's
course.
going to
Yeah,
be.
100%.
Um, but like we talked about it, and I was really excited to see because they'd left it till the last minute to sign up to keep that
Yes.
suspense.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why, because they didn't post about it on any of their social medias either.
Yeah, but we
There
look.
was
People, certain people look. We know we look.
people had a look, and
Yeah,
it was really exciting to see. And I was like, no, they were so close on qualifying number one.
yeah,
But yeah, as you said, the Russian teams just that was their qualifier completely. Like, just hats off to them on that.
for sure. All right. Well, that leaves then qualifier number 2. This time around, they had 3 spots to get through, and Ensathina and HSG coming back. Other notable teams coming in: Elite Clan Violet, of course, still around. K10 were trying to get through. AAB were there. Interestingly enough, there was a team called OKF Jong, which consisted of 3 players from Astralis, Seven Licious, and Chloe, which is interesting to say the least.
Mm.
I'm there's a hmm. I could be very wrong on this. I could have sworn there was a rule that if you play a qualifier for a certain team, you then can't play the event for the regular team. I could be wrong, but I swear this was a thing that happened to Brazil last a few seasons ago, where one of the players played for Atrix before it was Atrix. They
Mm.
qualified, and then they got signed by MIBR and were unable to play for MIBR for the season because they had qualified with Atrix. It could be a you have to qualify thing, but that's just a weird one from Aurora,
I
Josephine, and Anja.
I I
There's a
don't
rule
know.
there's a rule for it. I know for sure there's a rule because it did come up in Brazilian Counter Strike for 100% it happened. I remember it happening. I just do not
Mm.
remember if it was because the fact that she qualified that she couldn't play with MIBR, or if it was because she played with the team that became Atrix. I don't remember which one it is, but I know that rule popped up. I distinctly remember that rule popping up.
I'm sure they've probably done that looking, so I'm hoping
Yeah.
it'll be fine. Um,
That would be
it
that'd
would
be a
be
very funny way to gut
this is
the
this
Astralis
is your
core.
PSA. If you are a player looking to go into competitions, read the goddamn rule book. No matter how long, no matter how tedious, read it and read it properly because you can and will get tripped up over anything.
How many teams, I want to say it was in season 2. How many teams in season 2 got disqualified because after the match ended they went into the stream of whoever was casting their game and immediately when it ended started typing. Don't do that.
Yep,
Because
don't do
then
that.
there's a case to be made that you were watching the stream and you were getting secondhand info even if
Exactly.
it was a few minutes delayed. Don't do that.
Exactly. And and you see it with the ESEA seasons as well, as people don't read the fine print that you're not allowed to use agent skins, so loads of games get overturned. And
Oh,
it's
we
like
have so much
read
fun with that.
the
So
rule
much
book.
fun.
It's boring, it's tedious, but it's there for a reason, and you as a player, it is your responsibility to read it. So I'm sure they've done their research. I'm hoping so.
Yeah,
Like Josephina's a good friend of my ex casting duo Velas. Like she's really sweet, she's really lovely, she's got a good head on her shoulders. So I'm assuming they've done their
I'm
research.
hoping so. I'm hoping
But
this wasn't just a
any
stupid, hey,
players
let's
out
play
there,
Counter Strike.
please just read the rule book,
Yeah,
please. This is my plea to you. If you can take one piece of information away from me, is just do it.
yeah.
Just
Just do it.
just put a
Skechers.
little Subway Surfers video on your second tab if that's what you need to get through the rule book.
uh,
But
there you
just do
go.
it.
All right. And like, okay, so notable teams. I'm gonna just go over them again real quick. Ence Athena, K10 Ashes, Elite Clan Violet, AAB, HSG, Wolpa Impact, who we'll talk about in a second. Waves were here, Permita and Yayo, of course, as well, joining in on the fun. Um, to make a whole qualifier short, we ended up with, I forgot to mention one day we're also in there. Urbitska, Vispel, Stacy, Tiki Taki Taki, and Sunny and Sunside. We ended up getting all the way to the semifinals, and it was Ence Athena going up against One Day for one spot, HSG going up against Permita for the other spot. Both were 2-0s, so Ence Athena and HSG are through. They make it into They make it into Europe, into the European season 6. There is a third place match that happened though, and that was against One Day and Permita. It ended up having to go to a map number 3, so 13-7 to Permita, 13-3 to One Day on map number 2. Map number 3, 13-6 for Permita. So Permita make it through as well.
Mhm.
So Ence, HSG, and Permita make it through. And Permita we haven't talked about yet is Tinka, Oxyset, Missy, Victoria, notably from Nine Pandas Fearless, and Monkey to Julie, who I want to say most recently was playing with Letter Cook, but I could be wrong. Yes, I was wrong. She was playing with who she played with? She played with Nemesis for a bit. She played with Team France as well, I guess is another one. I'm just trying to figure out which team she played with most recently. It's been a while. It's
Whilst
been
you
a
do,
while since she
I'll
played.
recount my I'll count my little. I was really glad that there was a third place slot because
Yes.
when I saw that it was going to be HSG versus Permitter, I I love the HSG lot. They are incredible, and I'm so glad to see that they've got a spot. Um, but I'm also a big fan of the Permitter lots because I met the Permitter CEO. I say this like every Impact episode.
Yeah, I met the
I met the
CEO of this
Permitter
company.
CEO at a networking event, and he was really nice. And I like because we chatted because I saw him on the little networking app, and it was like, "Hey, do you want to connect with this person and have like a little networking meeting?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd really like to actually." It was like, "So what did you want to talk about?" I was like, I just wanted to say that I think it's really cool that you're investing in the women's scene. And he was like, that absolutely, like we really care about our women's team. Like we're really investing in this. And so I was really glad to see that that's paying off as well. And it's like you invest in it, you get the results. Like this is good. This is what more orgs need to see. Um, and yeah, I've got another point about orgs, but after you've done your little recap, I will
Yeah,
make that point.
yeah. No, thank you for thank you for letting me get in there. 12 teams then will I've been set for Impact Season 6. So it's Imperial FE, Navi Javelins, Letter Cook are back, Big Akipa, Astralis FE, Nip Impact, Team Spirit FE, Dreamcatchers, Crescent, Ence Athena, HSG, and Permita. So not only a few teams unsigned to start off the season. Of course, Letter Cook starting off unsigned as well. That's kind of how they roll. So 3 teams, and yeah, pretty cool to see. We'll get to see the two groups of 6 pop up quite soon. But overall, a very interesting season to be had. And we say it every single time that we come into this. Like this is going to be the most competitive season, and like this time it does. It really does feel like every single season we're getting a little bit more competitive. We have teams that were powerhouses for a season or two start to drop away because they're the up and comers are really starting to make their waves. But yeah, I mean, overall it's looking pretty nice across the board.
It's the point I was going to make come back to is you said that most of the European teams are signed. I am curious to see what is going to happen to the orgs that signed teams that didn't make the qualifiers. So I could be corrected on this one, but I seem to remember it was a big deal in the UK scene a while back. Is there was like this round table sort of community Twitch stream that was run
Yeah.
about why the UK scene can't seem to break out internationally. Like we've had a couple of players, but why like the teams can't, like what's sticking? And I remember one of the owners of K10 having a discussion. They said something that stuck with me. It's a bit like, our I can't remember that was their main team or their academy team. We were like, we'll start paying you in their contracts. They had a thing was that we'll start paying you when you qualify for a certain event or a certain number of events.
Yeah,
And I'm curious to see whether that was going to be the case with the K10 Ashes team, whether it was we will salary you if you
you make
make
this thing. Yep.
Impact Season 6, which of course, unfortunately, they didn't. So I am curious to see whether they step away and maybe K10 reach out to another one of the ESL Impact teams that did qualify
Yep.
and be like, hi, we're willing to offer you a salary or get their name in there. And it's not just K10. I think we might see a couple of the orgs that didn't quite make it turn around and go, okay, well, we're only getting 2 seasons a year. Unfortunately, we're parting ways with you, and then try pick up a team
Yep.
like Let Her Cook or one of the Russian teams that isn't org. And I am curious to see whether the orgs that didn't make it choose to stick with their roster or not, because for a lot of them, the women's team is more of a publicity stunt than it is a money making sort of scheme.
Right.
You know, so if they're not playing in season 6 of Impact, they've got the cash cups, but how much coverage do they really have for those? You don't have eyes on your org like you need. You're not getting maybe what you want out of putting that investment into the Impact team. So I am curious to see what happens with the likes of those orgs.
For sure. I I'm excited to see what happens with Dreamcatchers and Crescent. Again, it's one of those things like it's a Russian full team. It's a full Russian team, so a bit of something might have to be you have to be aware of just because of the where
Have my women's
yeah, there's a current conflict going on between that, and sometimes certain players will say certain things because that's their opinion, and it causes issues. We had that before with a few Russian players that were on other teams together as well, like other teams in the men's scene where they had a few Russian players on some mixed teams, and like they had to get rid of the Russian players because of visa issues or because all of a sudden then something kind of happened. And it's like there's a
political
little
elements
yeah
as
political
well.
elements popped in, and it's like okay, we got to be careful here.
Mhm.
Moving on, we've got some news now, some big roster moves, some announcements to start us off with. And I think we'll start off with the one that we kind of have alluded to a little bit here. It is Navi having a roster
Yes.
change. Um, they've swapped out some players, and I forgot who they swapped out because I didn't look correctly enough. Ba-ba-ba-ba. So Letty and oh, who's the other one? I feel bad now because I know who came in. Oh god, hold on. I'm getting back
I
that tab. I'm getting back to my tab. I'm getting back
I'll
my
be
tab.
honest with
I'm
you, if
grabbing
I
down the
try to open
downloads.
a tab, my whole Discord is gonna
Yeah,
crash.
I know. Please, please. So it's Lena and Letty. Sorry, it was the two L's of the team.
Mm.
Lena and Letty have been put on the bench for the squad. They are effectively basically going to be on their way out on the release side, and in their place they have picked up Astra and D7.
That's nice.
And
I like this.
notable for that is D7 was last playing on Guild, who
Yeah.
were very close to making it to the season 5 finals in place of, I believe, in place of like Letter Cook or something like that. I believe that was where that was going.
Uh, I think it was Guild versus Leather Cook.
Let
Or
me
was it
see.
Ents Athena?
European Division playoffs. It
I think it
was
was
Guild
Ents.
versus Letter Cook, and
Yeah, it was.
Guild lost to Letter Cook, and then proceeded to lose to Fearless Cheetahs for the extra slot. So, or no, they beat Fearless Cheetahs. Sorry, in case another team wasn't able to go, like
Yeah,
Letter Cook
okay.
might have, if they weren't able to go. But no, Guild lost to Letter Cook. They lost the chance to qualify. So yes, um, so yeah, D7 comes from that team, and Astra comes from the second place. Letter Cook. She moves up after the very surprising matchup they had. I mentioned when I was in Dallas, like Navi going up against Letter Cook. Um, it looked like it was going to be Letter Cook taking the win on that because Letter Cook was one of the only other teams other than Imperial who were able to beat Navi. Right, it was one of those things. So, um,
I think that it was in that moment because I don't think they were happy with that loss. I
Yeah, they
don't
were
think they were
not
happy at all.
happy.
Because we'd gone into that saying this is entirely Navi Javelins to lose now.
Yes.
I think I was adamantly convinced that they'd be walking away with the victory on this.
Yeah.
And then they fell short. And I think, especially when you lose to a team that, like, don't get me wrong, Let Her Cook absolutely deserved to be where they
They're a
were.
very good team.
But I think in the eyes of Navi, if you're losing to Let Her Cook, something has to change. Because I think that in their mind, that was completely unacceptable loss. And I think in the minds of a lot of people, it was like that was a team we should not have lost to. And the fact that they didn't make the finals as well, I think something needed to change both in their mind's eye and in the public's as well, because after you've, I don't want to say choked, but they've been pushing that second, third place so much. They've not really been able to get that taste of victory within the ESL Impact circuit.
Yeah.
Like outside, they were doing really well. Like they'd won the Trade FE Masters. Like they'd just beaten Pigeons, now Imperial as well. I think it was Trade FE3. And then to lose to Let Her Cook, changes were inevitable, I think. But yeah, I think they've got some exciting new players. D7 coming in. I'm really excited for her because it feels like she's got so much potential. She's such an incredible player, and she's just struggled to find a team where she's been the right piece to slot in. Like, not that she's had a team that's let her down, it's just not been the team that works around her in the way that best lets her shine. And hopefully this is it.
Yeah, hopefully this is in fact it. I'm excited to see this new look Navi, and they seem excited as well. So the wrinkle that comes with this, of course, is IESF is still going to happen. They still have to represent as a full 5 Polish players. So I'm guessing Lena and Letty will be back for that. But I'm guessing, considering how long these players have spent together as a core, they've been with each other. Minus Letty, the majority of this team has been together since 2022 plus more. That was when Navi signed them, and yeah, it's been a while since they made the change. Yeah, they made the change. They parted with Danu, who was a part of that original lineup, after a year, and then they brought Letty in. So Navi are not a team to make a lot of changes. They're ones that will work through things. They'll stick together on it, and then they'll come back and kind of workshop and everything later. So no, it's yeah, it's very interesting. It's very cool. Excited to see where it leads them in the future. So yeah, congrats to Oster, congrats to D7. Great to see from them. On the other side of things, in terms of rosters that we kind of knew needed something to happen, HSG. They announced when they were coming over that they had kind of 2 open spots available. They had a flag for China, which was Zhao Wu. They had a flag for Brazil, which is Olga, and they had a flag for Malaysia, which is GFI. Then they had 2 world flags, and they were like, yeah, we're doing trials and everything. They have announced that Anna has joined the roster, and they are retaining Hazel on the team as well. So I think that's where it sits. They could still be trialing. I mean, I look at the announcement, and it has the Latvian flag for Anna, who, of course, comes from Guild, but they still have an Earth Globe, which is interestingly enough pointing to the Americas. I don't think they're picking up a North American player. I haven't heard anything regarding that, so it's
I
probably just a globe picture at this point.
Yeah. So, for HSG is I'd spoken to a player and they I can't say who because I don't think it's public information and I think they would probably politely mask me if it came out. But I know that they were looking at a certain player, but I think they were locked into a contract with their org.
Right.
And it would have meant that their sort of international reach would have gone even further out, which would have been crazy. It would have been a player from each region if
That would have
the
been
lineup
crazy.
that I think that they were looking at and that this person was hoping for
That would have been
was going to
crazy.
happen. Um, I've already said too much. If I speak now, I am in big trouble, and I don't want to be in big trouble.
Gotcha.
Um, but I think the lineup that they've ended up with is looking pretty good. Um, I'm just really curious about the logistics of how and where they're going to play
Yeah.
because they played the qualifiers from Europe
Yeah, they were
and
in
they're going to
Spain.
want to play the season from Europe.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure out where they're looking to be based, if, they're just looking to like rent a house and have like a
Yeah.
LAN house, or if they're looking to like rent out a boot camp location for like the whole time, which is expensive, but like you've got the facilities, um, or if the org is looking to just get a building, move over, migrate. I'm not really sure. So I'm hoping GFI responds to me and that I can have that interview because I really want to know because it's we've not seen that a whole lot. Like we've seen Imperial went over to Brazil for a little bit, didn't they?
Yeah.
I don't
Just
think
for
they're
a
playing
little
over
bit of a
there.
hop.
Yeah, just for a little bit of hot, but they're not playing over there. I don't think we've, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we've seen an impact team fully move region
Nope.
to play. So
Uh,
this is new, this is unprecedented.
the only teams that ever participated at this scale was ATK
Mm.
and Mind Freak when they were in North America for season one finals at Dallas a long time ago. They participated in the Valencia qualifiers in North America, and I believe Mind Freak were the ones to win. I could be totally wrong here. Hold on, I'm carbon dating
Fact check
myself
it.
horribly here. Let's see, season five. Go back to Impact Valencia 2022, and it was Mind Freak. Yeah, okay, I was right, and there you go, BB on, and on that roster. Um,
Yeah.
I remember picking her up actually for the fantasy for that because
Oh,
I liked her numbers, and then all of a sudden she popped up on CLG Red, and I went, that's interesting. Um, but yeah, the hold on, let me go look at the qualifier because the North American qualifier will be up, and I know ATK came. Yeah, it was ATK, Mind Freak, Little Box, and Police Send Help all going up against each other. So that's a blast from the past. Um,
God, yeah.
Interestingly enough, by the way, Kinetic, Kimmy, and Bouchard all played together in the most recent qualifier. In qualifier number 2, North America, they played with Athena and who'd they play with? There was another player they had. They had to have five. Kimmy, Kianetta, Bouchard, Athena. Oh, they're gonna hate me. Oh well, they don't listen anyways. Um, ATK. So, anyways, ATK were there. Mind Freak were there. They faced each other in the semifinals, and Mind Freak won. And then it was a 2-1. It was a 2-1 Mind Freak over top of Please Send Help because that
Mm.
was Senna, Lover Girl, Jess Cass, Piggy Hiki, and Mads. So, very interesting to look back a few years and always see like these other teams. So,
See where everyone's at now,
yeah,
yeah.
see where everybody goes. Moving forward with roster stuff, then we gotta finish up this episode. Like I mentioned earlier, Lettercook is back. They have a bit of a different lineup as a result of some roster moves and some stuff. So it's Joanna, Rachel, Menaskine, Melissa, and Hikomi joining. She's a Polish player. She's joining the squad in place of Astra. So that's pretty cool to see. Um, Another roster on the way in, we mentioned them earlier, is Whoopa Esport. That's Emerald, Malti, Aya, One Amy, and Maria Bob, from various different places in the Nordic countries, and a Greek and French player. The French women's CS team is pretty good. They have a lot of really good players, like underappreciatedly so, in my opinion. But yeah, so Wopa Esports welcome into Impact. They didn't qualify for this season, but I'm interested to see kind of what happens with the roster as a result now.
Yeah.
And then the final piece of news coming out of Europe was Feist Esports. We mentioned earlier that their last team didn't work out between them, and they parted ways. And I believe the team died afterwards as well. Like the team was dead, and that's why they were let go. Feist Esports have kind of announced like, hey, just so you guys are aware, this season we're not looking for any more teams. Like we tried,
Yeah.
it's just going to take a step back. We're going to evaluate where we are financially, and then we'll come back maybe in the future. But for now, it's not anything to do for us. So, Buys I mean, I respect them for taking the effort for trying. Right, I respect them for giving it a go.
Yeah.
All things, time marches on. So, yeah,
There's only one more thing I want to bring up because I feel
yes,
like we've reached the end of our news.
yeah,
There's only one more thing I think happened this week I think is worth bringing up within the Brace for Impact podcast is Flyquest Red put out a tweet with a rather long statement about how the changes to
yes,
the Shanghai, is it the Shanghai Major Qualifier, and how
yes,
previously teams were allowed to enter their academy teams and their main teams, But now they've absolutely said no to that. And the way that it was skewed, because I know there's a little bit of controversy around it, the way
Yeah.
that they skewed it as well is that, they want to show off their women's team and have the ESL Impact teams
Yes.
be able to participate as well to show how far the women's team's coming, and that's no longer an option. And a lot of people took issue with that. I don't know why, but a lot of people did.
There's
And
a
then there
few
was,
points I can definitely articulate that I know some people have been
yeah,
very vocal about. So
I don't agree with the points because I think that I understand why. I
yeah,
understand that it's an integrity thing with conflict of interests and integrity. I don't worry. I get
yeah,
that. I study these sorts of things, so I'm with you, right? But also they make a good point. And also, you know, like why is it changing now? That's my thoughts.
yeah.
And I don't think that they're changing it to screw women over. Not at all. That
No,
was not the intention. No one is saying that. And if you think they're saying that, just
it's not a
check
gender
yourself.
issue. It's not a
It's
gender issue
not
in
a
this
gender
case.
issue. And Flyquest wasn't trying to make it a gender issue. They were just trying to say, I think it would be really cool if the orgs that have women's teams could show off their women's teams as well.
Yeah,
But then another thing came out, and it was like the international rankings and stuff, the Valve rankings,
yeah.
and how Bima made it, but FlyQuest Red didn't.
FlyQuest were not
and
mentioned at all.
and yeah, and it's all very weird.
It's all very interesting.
That's been a big thing that was kind of tied to the women's scene because it
Yes,
came out through FlyQuest Red, and then
kind of
a load of
continued.
people that have never watched a single match of ESL Impact or any women's game in their life figured that they'd have an opinion about the women's scene,
Yeah,
which I know that everyone watching this is involved in the women's scene. No one is going to be tuning into Brace for Impact that doesn't care about the women's
for
scene.
sure.
So yeah, we can, but it's when those people, the people that pretend to give a fuck about the women's scene
Oh, my
when it
favorite.
suits their ideology.
You mean my superhero
Exactly, the
sampler?
superhero, like, oh, where it's like when a trans player does well, and they're like, we should be protecting women's esports. And I'm like, since when have you given a flying fuck about women's esports? You follow no women's players or teams or ESL Impact's account. What are you doing commenting this?
My
So
favorite
that's my rap.
my favorite to tie into that real quick. My favorite was when Shimmer went to Valencia and people were trying to say that Bouchard is trans, and she was the only non-trans player on the team at the time. Um, that's it's always very comedic.
It
Uh,
was the tweet. It was the tweet that went out when TSM Shimmer got signed by TSM, and some guy was like, I only see like 2.5 women in this photo. I was like, A, A, the half? Like, if you're
who's
so
the half?
confident that you can spot a trans person, then where's the half coming from? What's going on
Oh,
there?
have you?
Second of all, there's only
Yeah.
one man in that photo, and it's Parks Cast. I hope this clears it up for you. And then they turned around and was like, "You look trans," and I was like, "Do I?" Like, it's never
Oh,
something I'd thought about before. I was like, "Do I? Is that a compliment?" Like, it's clearly an insult from this guy, but like outside of that context, is that a? How am I meant to feel about that? Like, how do I respond to that one? Like, thank you?
there is no
Like,
response. It's
there's no
just it
response.
is what it is.
Um, but no, I
Um,
think I think Flyquest Red made a very good point because I think
yes.
it's weird that it's changing now, and I understand why it's changing. And no one was trying to make it a gender issue when that statement came out. They were just saying we'd like to show off our women's team, which is good. We should be appreciating this because if they're willing to promote their women's team, that means academy teams as well. It means they're getting supported, and we
Yeah.
like it when teams are supported by their orgs because
Yes.
having more orgs be supportive, a rising tide lifts all ships. This is not bad news for anyone, regardless of what those people think.
Yeah. And I mean the I think the reason it became so contentious was because of how TSM Shimmer and how FlyQuest Red have gotten their points, have gotten
Mm,
the space in that, and a lot of that turns to the fact that they get into these bigger events. They get NA gets 2 spots, right? They got 2 spots in the past few tournaments for ESL Impact season finals, which nets them a good amount of money, just because of the
true,
size of
true.
the LAN. Even if they don't take home that much from the LAN itself, based on their positioning and everything, because the LANs are huge, that's kind of why they make the money they do. But in the same token, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, you're trying to develop a league and you're trying to develop players. Like, you're gonna have to spend money on that. There's gonna have to be big tournaments to try and raise awareness for this kind of thing. Um, You can't just do that kind of stuff. You can't develop a scene with just free tournaments that nobody cares about because all they're gonna do is dunk on women's Counter Strike the entire time.
Exactly.
And
And
it's one of those things. Sorry, I do want to continue here. It's one of those
yeah,
things
you
of
do.
just like women's Counter Strike as it stands is not great in most aspects. Now, that being said, I would contend that a team like Imperial is probably like an NAECL level team, or in the trenches there, probably mid table. That's my comparison. I think they're good enough for that level. Um, I don't see a reason to dunk on anybody in that kind of case. Like to me it just seems stupid. Do I hate the fact that the conflict of interest thing caused the issue? Yes, that sucks. I would like that. I would like there to be the ability for academy teams and the women's teams to be able to participate in these qualifiers, get more reps against other competition other than other women's teams. Like the whole point of the women's scene is to give them a safe space so they can learn, they can grow, they can get
Mm,
better, they can go then participate in the other events, right? It becomes mixed tournaments and everybody's better for it because it's just better competition all around.
exactly.
So,
It's also, I think people are directing their anger at the wrong thing. We do have a common enemy in this, and it's the new format of the major. It's the
yes.
fact that there are no open qualifiers. That is what people should be angry about. Not that certain teams are getting invited to close qualifiers because they have a higher ranking, right? That is out of your control. That is out of most
Yeah.
people's control, okay? You can be angry at the fact that open qualifiers are gone. That is what is causing these issues, okay? Like, we do have a common thing that we dislike, okay? You're just directing your anger at the wrong thing. Like, taking out open qualifiers was such a bad decision. And you know what? If that is the opinion that kills my career, then so be it, because I will die on this hill.
Yeah.
Open qualifiers are good for everyone because you get the underdog stories. And if the teams are good enough, they will prove themselves,
Yeah.
right? If the teams are good enough, they will qualify, right? And if they're not, the teams that are good enough will. And with these rankings, that's the thing, is this is how it's always worked. And why are people surprised? Loads of events have invite only slots that are top tier. Blast,
Yeah.
for instance, for like, it's changing now, but for the past however long Blast has been operating, it was invite only for teams, and those held massive amounts of points, HLTV ranking, Valve points, right?
Yeah.
But no one was getting mad at that. Okay,
Because it's the
so
top
like this
teams.
isn't a new concept, okay? And it's just because it's women's teams and women's events that people are now going, oh my god, this is a problem. Blast has been doing it for ages and nobody saw the issue with it, right? So it's not different now.
Yeah. It just is what it is. So,
I think
um,
it's just a lot of not critical thinking.
yeah,
Sorry, I went really political there. I'm sorry, guys.
it's fine. Um, Sorry, I just read
Wow, I
something that's like
killed the
revealing.
vibe.
Sorry, I just no, I read something that's very hockey related, and I'm like losing my mind a little bit. Um, okay, we're gonna finish
Could
off the
you
episode
be
here. I'm so
any
sorry.
more
I've been on.
stereotypically
I li-
Canadian?
listen. The Toronto Maple Leafs are announcing
You-
it. Apparently announcing a new captain. I can't look anymore. Um, okay, what are you watching, if any, in the next few weeks here, while we wait for the next episode of Brace for Impact, and while we wait for ESL Impact Season 6 to kick off?
I am going to be. I don't really know what I'm going to be watching, to be honest with you. Who knows? Doom scrolling TikTok. I'm going to be watching a lot of Valorant because here's a little bit of a sneaky insight. Is I'm thinking about transitioning over to Valorant, which I know heinous as a CS player, but honest to God, CS industry is killing my will to live right now. So I'm going to be
Yeah.
catching up on a lot of, the game changer stuff as well, making sure I'm up to date with that. So I'm going to be watching game changers. I'm going to be doom scrolling TikTok. Um, I want to watch season 3 of The Boys because I've watched the first
Oh,
2 seasons of The Boys,
oh,
and it's
you're holding
so good.
yourself back.
No,
It's so
because
good.
I started watching season 1. My
Yeah.
partner goes, "Oh, what are you watching?" And I'm like, "The Boys." And he was like, "Oh, I watched the first 2 seasons." And I was like, "Oh, nice." He was like, "We should watch season 3 and 4 together."
Uh-huh.
We live ages apart,
Yeah.
and he isn't as chronically online as I am. So I want to just binge. I could binge the last 2 seasons in the next like 3 days.
Yeah.
But because he has now specifically said he wants to watch it with me,
You have to wait.
I can't. And I have to wait, and it's killing me. Um,
I
But I
should.
think maybe Rick and Morty. I
Rick
keep
and
seeing
Morty is
clips,
very good.
and I know that some of the
Have
creators of
you?
Rick and Morty are controversial right now. I'm trying to separate the art from the artist, but I really want to watch Rick and Morty
I'll,
because
I'll
it
be
seems
very honest. Rick and Morty is very good. I actually went through recently and I watched everything because I'd only watched like the newest seasons when I really started
mm,
watching, and a few weeks back I went through and I watched everything from the start, and yeah, it's just a lot of fun. People are saying it's worse than it was before. I don't think it's changed. I think it's changed, but I think it's changing as a TV show does because you can't keep doing the same episode over and over again. You
exactly.
have to get better. You have to
Oh, you Big
forward the
Bang
story
Theory.
along. Yeah, my mom loved Big Bang Theory. Just-
As a child, I hate it now. So what are
yeah.
you watching, Max? What's
Um,
your go-to this
I'm gonna be keeping an eye on
hobby?
CSM Shimmer. I'm gonna be keeping an eye on Flyquest Red. Those are my daily casts. We're coming up towards the end of the season already. Um, yeah, and so we'll see. The Flyquest Red have made a very big push to potentially make playoffs as right now. Top 24 in NA Advanced make playoffs, so that's something to keep an eye on. They're currently sitting 21st, 5-2, I want to say. So they're doing quite well. And they've had a few reschedules, so the back end of their season is kind of different than what it was at the start. But yeah, I'm very excited for that, and
And you're
yeah,
watching the hockey.
and I'm watching the hockey. The hockey. Well, I'm not watching the hockey yet, man. We count down the days here by counting by you take a picture of somebody's jersey and we say we're this many days away, and it's like some famous player. So like earlier this season we were 89 days away, so it was Nick
I am
Robertson.
convinced that Canada is not a real country.
We are a
Every
hockey
more
cult.
I learn about
We are a hockey
Canada,
cult.
I am convinced it is closer
You
to
know
a
what?
cult
I
than it is
watched
a country.
the Olympics. Shout out CBC Radio. Shout out CBC Radio. Shout out CBC as a
They
broadcasting
paid
corporation.
for the Olympics,
It was
man.
free, dude. Everything on the Olympics was free. I could watch it at work
What?
because my coworker, like my boss, was like, "Yeah, you want to put on kayaking for 3 hours? Do it." I watched so much fencing, man. I love fencing. I used to fence. I love
I
fencing.
I
So
used to fence as well. We should fence sometimes.
no,
Sometimes.
no.
Um,
I'm way out of
what?
practice.
Scared I'd win.
Yes,
You don't want an
I don't
army.
want this
You don't.
smoke.
No, they paywalled loads of the Olympics here. So like
Oh,
the BBC, which is free to watch if you have a TV license, but legally they can't really enforce you having a TV license. They
yeah,
don't really have the authoritative power. Um, so they had some of it on the BBC to watch for free,
yeah.
but
No,
then loads of it was on like sites that you had to pay to watch. Like, was it like like Disney had some of them?
interesting.
I'm not buying Disney Plus to watch the
Yeah.
Olympics,
No,
and it's
everything
like.
here was free. The Paralympics are free. CBC Gem has an app. Like, there are a bunch of TV shows out there that CBC bought the rights to in Canada or has the rights to in Canada that I can just watch for free right now. I have not paid a single cent to CBC other than through my taxes. It is wonderful. People hating on the CBC for all the political bullshit or whatever, go to the left, man. I'm chilling right here in my nice in my I'm chilling here at my desk. I'll put on a TV show that I watched like 6 years ago for like 3 episodes if I want to. Like there's some good stuff there. So public radio is awesome, and that's where we're gonna end the episode because you're at hour 23. We have been yapping, heavily yapping here. You need to go. I have to prepare for a cast in half an hour. So thank you very much for watching this episode. It was a bit of a long one. I hope you made it through. I'm definitely going to have a lot of notes of where everything is kind of broken up. So if you want to watch that 10-minute section on where we mention your name, please do that. As well, actually, I'm going to link. There's going to be a
Work
survey.
on an invention that take bribes.
There, she does, and I do as well. There is also going to be a survey linked in the chat below. If you haven't already filled it out, I'm basically just trying to collect information on what people want to watch, what people want to listen to, what people want to see in terms of coverage, what they've enjoyed so far in the past 5 seasons of NA ESL Impact, specifically. So, yeah, thank you everybody so much for watching. We'll be back in a few weeks' time. Till then, bye for now.